What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another post-game show here on Mets Central. This is Mets Fan Reaction Game 69, where the New York Mets defeat the Washington Nationals by a final score of 4-3 as they complete the three-game sweep over the Washington Nationals. Before we get into the post-game recap, as always, make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe on the channel. We greatly appreciate you guys supporting on the channel, and we want to keep feeding you guys content throughout the rest of the season. Also, make sure you guys hit the post notification bell as well to let you guys know anytime we upload a video or go live here on Mets Central. But yeah, let's get into the actual post game now. And listen, it's very nice to sweep the Nationals, and it's very nice that now, well, even before this game, but the Mets currently right now have the best record in baseball, currently sitting at 45-24, which is very nice to see. You always want to have the best record in the MLB. You always want to have the best record in the National League as well. And to be fair, the Mets played not a perfect series this series, but there was certainly some slight improvements. And today the game was interesting in a lot of ways because the Mets got off to a very quick start today, courtesy of a Jeff McNeil 3-run home run in the first inning off Mike Soroka. And also Brandon Nimmo would add a home run. Would also add on to the score with getting a solo home run in the bottom of the fifth later in the game. But after that, the game kind of got very depressing in a way because obviously, if you guys see in the title, the Mets obviously sweep the Nationals, but Kodai Senga unfortunately did suffer an injury in this game. Now, we don't know the severity of the injury yet. Carlos Mendoza, after the game in his press conference, mentioned that Senga right now, for now, is going to go on the IL, and he's going to get an MRI tomorrow on his hamstring to see the severity of the hamstring because as I said, right now he basically strained his hamstring. Now, this is frustrating, right? Because Kodai Senga's had just a very great year this year. He's been very good. I mean, he's taken the ball every 6 days, and he's basically been a dog for this pitching staff. He has been so good for this pitching staff. He's given this team length. He's given this team just. He struck out so many batters. His stuff has looked really good this year, and especially after coming off of last year, where he basically missed all of last year with an injury. And of course, he made his small little cameo in the playoffs, and he didn't really look right. But you just wanted to see Kodai Senga this year, like I said, especially coming off last year where he had the injury. You just wanted to see him have a healthy year, and the fact that now he picks up this injury when I will say the timing kind of the timing kind of works out, but it also sucks in a way because one of the things that I was looking forward to this year was seeing both Kodai Senga and Sean Manaea, the two co-aces of the staff, working together and pitching back-to-back games and just seeing them rack up strikeouts and helping this team win. That's something that we missed out on last year. Sean Manaea took that next step last year, while Kodai Senga unfortunately had his injury problems last year, and it was looking like we were going to see that this year until Sean Manaea unfortunately gets the injury in spring training, and then he's been shut down for a while. He's making his rehab starts. I believe he made either last night or the night before in Single A Brooklyn with the Cyclones, and he pitched pretty well. So hopefully Sean Manaea is on his way back. But like I said, I really want to see both Senga and Manaea pitch at the same time and just both at dominant levels, but it seems now that we're still not going to see that just because Senga is going to go on the 10-day IL, I presume. But listen, best case scenario for Senga, best case, like I said, it's a low grade hamstring strain, and he misses 2 starts. Like that for me, that is best case scenario. The only thing that sucks about it is when you look at the Mets' upcoming schedule. Of course, they have their next 3 games against the Tampa Bay Rays, but their next 3 series after that you have a series in Philadelphia, a series in Atlanta, and then a 4-game set in back at Citi Field against the Braves. So Senga's going to definitely miss some starts against some very good teams, which it sucks to see. And yes, I know that the Braves haven't been good this year, but we all know that those divisional games, especially Mets Braves, those are tightly close contested games. So you want to have your best pitchers available. And then, like I said, it just sucks that Senga is going to miss some time on the IL because of the strained hamstring. I mean, listen, and it sucks because when you look at the play, what happened, obviously Senga obviously executes the pitch, and he gets a ground ball over to Pete Alonso. And typically we've seen Pete struggle with those simple throws over to the pitcher when he has to cover first base, and he just tossed the ball just high enough to the point where Senga had to jump up, grab, and right away you could see that that Senga just he straightened his hamstring. And like I said, it sucks. Pete obviously felt bad after the game, and listen, I don't want to get on to Pete. It was a bad throw, so he has to take some responsibility. But I don't want to just get all onto Pete and say that it is his fault at the end of the day, because shit happens. It's baseball at the end of the day, and injuries are going to happen. But it's just now the Mets are going to have to deal with it. And listen, they have good pitching depth. Obviously, it's going to get strung out a little bit more just because you are currently losing your best starting pitcher. But it is what it is. It is what it is. You can't make any excuses. It's a next man up mentality, and the next guy is going to come up. Obviously, we did get news also prior to me going on live on this post game. Will Salmon of I forgot who he writes for, but he did mention that Max Kranick will be called up now due to the Senga injury. So it's going to be nice to see him back in the bullpen, because we're going to talk about someone in this episode who came out of the bullpen today and severely struggled, and his pitching time should be severely limited now, because it's clear that that he's just not comfortable at all, and he's not pitching well. But we'll get into that. But yeah, obviously, like I said, it's very nice to sweep this series. It's very nice to improve the record, have the best record in the MLB. And yeah, listen, the Mets just have to continue now. They just have to continue. Obviously, like I said, they have the next series is against Tampa Bay Rays, so another 3 games. And listen, if you could go 2 out of 3 and have a 5-1 homestand before you head on the road, I think I would gladly take that. So, but obviously we'll see tomorrow, and we'll break that down on the podcast a little bit later. But anyway, guys, let's get into the actual post-game recap. On the mound for the Mets, as I mentioned, it was Kodai Senga, and on the mound for the Washington Nationals, it was Mike Soroka. So leading off the game, it was C.J. Abrams. He would pop out. James Wood would hit a single. Luis Garcia would ground into a force out, and Nathaniel Lowe would ground out to get out of that inning. So very good work by Kodai Senga there. Bottom of the first, the Mets would strike here as Francisco Lindor would work a leadoff walk. Brandon Nimmo would have a deep fly out. Juan Soto would then walk. Pete Alonso would then hit a deep fly out as well. So 2 outs at first and second. Juan Soto ends up stealing second base. Juan Soto ends up stealing second base. So second and third with 2 outs. And Jeff McNeil comes through again. And Jeff McNeil has been playing very good recently. He's been swinging a hot bat, and he hits a 3-run shot as he puts the ball just over the right field wall to put the Mets up 3-0. That was Jeff McNeil's 7th home run of the season. So very nice for him. And then Starling Marte flies out to end that inning. Top of the second, 1-2-3 inning here by Senga as Josh Bell grounds out, Alex Cole grounds out, and Jose Tena grounds out. Move on to the bottom of the second, Brett Beatty strikes out. Tyrone Taylor would walk. He would steal second base. Unfortunately, the Mets could not score here as both Francisco Alvarez and Francisco Lindor ground out. Move on to the top of the third. Another 1-2-3 inning here by Kodai Senga as Kyber Ruiz would fly out. Robert Hassel would strike out, and C.J. Abrams would strike out as well. Move on to the bottom of the third. Brandon Nimmo with a leadoff single. Juan Soto would strike out. Pete Alonso would strike out. Jeff McNeil will be hit by a pitch. Unfortunately, the Mets could not score in this inning as Starling Marte grounds into a force out. Move on to the top of the fourth. Another quick 1-2-3 inning here by Senga as James Wood, Luis Garcia would strike out, and then Nathaniel Lowe would fly out to get out of that inning. Bottom of the fourth, 1-2-3 inning here for the Nationals as Brett Beatty would strike out, or 1-2-3 inning here for the Mets as Brett Beatty strikes out, Tyrone Taylor strikes out, and Francisco Alvarez would fly out to end the inning. Top of the fifth, Josh Bell would ground out, Alex Cole would ground out, Jose Tena walks, and then Kyber Ruiz would fly out to end that inning. Again, good work by Senga there. We move on to the bottom of the fifth. Francisco Lindor grounds out, and then Brandon Nimmo, who continues his hot streak. And again, please keep Brandon Nimmo in the 2-hole. He is hot. He is hit it. He's swinging the bat well there as he hits a solo home run to extend the Mets lead to 4-0. Juan Soto would then ground out. Pete Alonso would fly out to right field to end that inning. We then move on to the top of the sixth, and this is where we would see the injury to Senga happen. As he would strike out Robert Hassel. He would get C.J. Abrams to ground out to first base, and as I mentioned before, Senga goes to cover the bag. Pete Alonso fields the ball cleanly, and just a little high throw over to Senga, and he had to jump up there. Thankfully, he still got the out at first base, but you could just see, as I mentioned before, he went up to jump, he strained his hamstring, and he went down there. And I was at this game with both me and Evan were there, and this was the second time we've seen Senga get hurt, because we were at that game last year against the Braves where Senga strained his calf muscle. So it just sucks to see that both times me and him saw Senga go down with injuries after, again, he was pitching well. So it just sucks to see. And obviously there will be the injury delay, and then Jose Castillo would come in to replace Senga. But just to pull up Senga's final pitching line: 5 2/3 innings, 0 hits, 0 runs, 1 walk, 5 Ks, 0 home runs. His ERA currently sits at a 1.47 ERA. And the other thing that sucks here, just for the team in general and for Senga, because the fact that David Peterson went last night and he pitched a complete game shutout, and the fact that he rested the bullpen, and then the fact that Senga was rolling today, and, at the time of the injury, he was only at about 73, 74 pitches. So Senga could have very well worked, 7 full innings. Maybe he even could have started the 8th inning, which, that sucks because, again, you could have saved the bullpen even more. So, and the fact that it also sucks with Senga is because he's probably also in line for an All-Star game appearance, and this injury could easily, take him out of the All-Star game running, which would suck to see because, like I mentioned before, Senga fully deserves a spot this year on the All-Star team. He's been pitching so well. I mean, just to look at his, the breakdown of baseball savant today. Sorry, guys. Just to break it down. I mean, like I said, he pitched very well. And, early on in the game, because he didn't get his first 2 strikeouts until the 3rd inning, early on in the game, he was getting a lot of soft contact outs, especially through the ground ball. Got a couple soft contact flats as well, but he was using the cutter a lot today, which I liked. Threw that 24 times, through the forkball 21 times, the 4-seamer 20 times, through the curveball a couple more times, which is something that that I like, that I saw as well, because he really, he threw some effective curveballs in this game as well. And I mean, typical, and it also was a typical Senga start, where he got swing and misses on his forkball as well. 10 swings, 4 whiffs on the forkball, 10 swings, 3 was on the fastball, and on the cutter, 8 swings, 1 whiffs. And I mean, he was just throwing strikes all game long as well. I mean, like I said before, he only had 1 walk, but through the cutter, 54% in the zone, through the 4-seamer, 55% of the zone, the forkball, obviously only 24% of the time, but, as I said before, he was getting a lot of, chases and swing and misses on that curveball. So, yeah, I mean, listen, like I said, it sucks to see that Senga is going to miss some time, and hopefully, like I said, it's not too severe. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully it's only a light strain, and he only misses about 2 starts, and hopefully we can see him back in the rotation as quickly as possible. But yeah, just continuing with the game, Jose Castillo comes in. James Wood would then hit a single. And then Tyrone Taylor would make a fantastic diving play on a fly ball hit by Luis Garcia into center field. Tyrone Taylor makes a great diving play to get out of that inning, so nice play by him. Bottom of the 6th, Eduardo Salazar comes in to replace Michael Soroka. Jeff McNeil would ground out. Stalling Marte would fly out. Brett Beatty would single. Tyrone Taylor would single. Francisco Alvarez would walk. So bases loaded with 2 outs. Unfortunately, the Mets cannot score here as Francisco Lindor would ground out to end that inning. Top of the 7th, Luis Acuna comes in to replace Jeff McNeil at second base. And no injury there, was just a defensive substitution, so nothing to worry about there. But Nathaniel Lowe would single, Josh Bell would strike out. Pitching change then as Huascar Brazoban would come in to replace Jose Castillo. And again, Brazoban was very sharp today. Very nice to see after, he struggled his last couple of outings. That was definitely due to fatigue, because he definitely looked a lot better today, and he will get Alex Call to ground into an inning-ending double play. Bottom of the 7th, Brandon Nimmo grounds out. Juan Soto hits a double, so very nice to see that Juan Soto again gets a base hit in this series. Pete Alonso would then walk, but unfortunately the Mets cannot score here as Luis Acuna grounds into an inning-ending double play. Top of the 8th, another quick 1-2-3 inning here by Brazoban as Jose Tena flies out. Kyber Ruiz pops out, and then Robert Hassel would fly out to end that inning. We then move on to the bottom of the 8th. Zach Bigstreet would come in to replace Salazar. Stalling Marte would hit a leadoff double. Unfortunately, he would be picked off at third base as he would try to steal third. Brett Beatty would reach on a fielding error. Tyrone Taylor would fly out, and then Francisco Alvarez would strike out to get out of the inning. And then we get to the top of the 9th, and this is where the nerves definitely start to hit, because Ryan Stanek comes in to replace Huascar Brazoban. We realize and both acknowledge that Ryan Stanek has not had a great season this year. There was a stretch where he looked solid, but the last, I would say, 3 weeks to a month, Stanek just really hasn't looked good. And again, it continued into this outing because he was just flat out horrible. CJ Abrams will lead off the inning with a single. James Wood would then single again. So you have first and third with no outs. Luis Garcia would then hit a single to bring in CJ Abrams. So now the Nationals have they have first and third with only 1 out. With no outs. Sorry. Edwin Diaz then comes in to replace Ryan Stanek. Nathaniel Lowe then walks to load up the bases. There will be a pinch runner. Josh Bell will then single to bring another run. So now it's 4-2. Pinch runner. Then there will be another pinch runner as Rosario comes in to replace Josh Bell. Alex Call will pop out. Then there will be a pass ball as another run will come into score. So now it's 4-3 Mets. But thankfully, Diaz was able to get out of the jam as Jose Tena grounds out, and then Kyber Ruiz grounds out to get out of that inning and end the game, and for the Mets to sweep this series. And God, I mean, we're going to talk about this more on the podcast, but Ryan Stanek, there needs to be serious discussions about Ryan Stanek, because I think, and listen, he hasn't pitched a lot over the last couple of weeks, and that's rightfully so because he hasn't been good. But I mean, and listen, I get that the Mets offense wasn't exactly the most productive today. I believe that they only went 1 for 7 with runs and scoring position today. But when you get into a low leverage situation there, when you have a 4-run lead, only need to get 3 outs. And listen, I get that Stanek is facing the top of the Nationals order, but he has to do much better than that, because that game should not have ended as close as it should have been. It just shouldn't. And listen, Evan talked about it yesterday on the post-game stream. Possible trade deadline adds in the fact, that the Mets might have to make some additions to the bullpen. And listen, I know that Kranick just got called up, and Dednell Nunes is still there to be called up. And obviously Brooks Raley is going to be coming back soon, as he's currently, undergoing rehab. But there needs to be another add to this bullpen, both a lefty and both a righty, because Ryan Stanek right now cannot be trusted at all. He has just not been good. He has not been good. And thankfully, I know Diaz wasn't sharp in this game either, but thankfully, Diaz, was able to come through and close out that game. So, and listen, like I said, it's nice to sweep. Obviously, like I said, the Mets currently have the best record in baseball. They have the best home record in baseball right now, currently sitting at 27-7. They've played 11 series at home so far. They've won 10 of them, only lost 1. Obviously, that one being the Diamondback series, but they're a good team at home. And they continue to win ball games. So, listen, hopefully, this stretch and this recent good play of baseball could now continue into the next series against the Tampa Bay Rays, because again, that's another series that the Mets should be winning. And like I said, hopefully they take 2 out of 3, and they have a 5-1 homestand before they eventually go on the road and have to play both the Braves and the Phillies. But anyway, guys, that's going to be the end of the actual post game wrap up. Before I get out of here, just going to go through you guys' comments. Will, what is going on? Thanks to Goofy. Pete, yeah, it was not a good throw by Pete, as I mentioned before. Ray, what is going on? Can Pete learn to throw? He's Chuck Knobloch when he tosses to the pitcher, and it came back to bite Senga in the hammy. Yeah, bad play. And like you said, Pete has to improve on those throws, because not only have we seen it through his career, it's hurt the Mets, but there's been a couple times where a couple bad throws by Pete have cost the Mets also. And listen, I know Pete's been clutch with the bat this season, but he needs to be a lot better on those throws. That cannot happen. Will, can we get a petition for Pete to be the full-time DH? I mean, listen, I think eventually, especially if the Mets sign Pete to a long-term extension, I do believe that Pete ultimately will move to the DH position, but for now, he's going to play first base. That's just how it is. Ray, we'll be seeing plenty of Blackburn as a starter now. That's why the depth is so important, and the Mets are deep at pitching. Yeah, this is why David Stearns, prioritizes pitching depth, so much, because guys get hurt. You never know. And listen, thankfully with Senga, this is nothing to do with, the arm or the elbow in any way, and the fact that he has to get Tommy John surgery. Thankfully, it's only, the hamstring. Obviously, like I said, we don't know the severity of it, but, pitching depth is important. And right now the Mets have very good pitching depth. Obviously, it's a little more stretched, but, thankfully they're going to get some help back in terms of, Manai's going to be back soon, and Montas is going to be back soon. And, you could also, if you need, you could call up one of the young guys. Obviously, we saw Blake Tidwell earlier this year. He made a start. You have Noah McLean down there. You have Brandon Sproat down there. The Mets could also very well make a trade for the starter. So, listen, we'll see what Blackburn has. We'll see if he makes a couple starts. Also, the Mets could call up a guy like Brandon Waddell also to make a spot start. We've seen that also a couple times. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, like you said, pitching depth is very important. Will, Pete is going to get someone hurt. He has problems tossing and throwing. Yeah, and like I said, he got Senga hurt today. Someone else because Senga got hurt. Yeah. But anyway, guys, that's going to be it for the post game today. As I said, make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe on the channel. As always, we greatly appreciate you guys' support on the channel. Also, make sure you guys hit the notification bell as well to let you guys know anytime we go live or upload a video here on the channel. Expect a post game show. Not a post game show. Expect a podcast later tonight. We'll be going sometime probably around 10:30, 11, depending on what time the Oilers and Panthers game ends. Because I want to watch that game 4. That's a pivotal game in the Stanley Cup final tonight. So, and MJ, I see your comment right here. Y'all going live for Kreider trade. We are going to do a Kreider trade reaction stream tomorrow on Ranger Central. So probably around 12:31, I would say. That's not official yet, but that's probably when you can expect it. So yeah, obviously we'll have some fun tomorrow discussing the Kreider trade. But yeah, guys, make sure, like I said, tune into the podcast later tonight, and then tomorrow, obviously, if any Ranger fans here in the chat, tomorrow we're gonna have a stream breaking down the Kreider stream. MJ, I don't know if I'm going to make it. I mean, it's if it's at 1, I mean, it's gonna be on playback, so you could always watch after. Obviously, it is better to watch live, but if you have something to do, it's just it is what it is. But anyway, guys, thank you guys for watching, and see you guys later. Peace, baby. Let's go Mets.